Wait, that's happened? A dead whale stopped the New York Stock Exchange? If you like strange but true history, curious history facts, and unbelievable true stories, this one is for you. A shocking historical event where the fate of Wall Street was tied to the fate of whales. To understand this surreal moment, we need to step back to a time before electricity, before gasoline, before the modern conveniences that keep the world glowing at night. In the mid-19th century, America's most valuable source of light came not from power plants or kerosene lamps, but from whales, specifically sperm whales. Their oil, once extracted and refined, burned brightly and cleanly, illuminating homes, factories, and city streets. By the 1840s and 1850s, whale oil was one of the most important commodities in the United States. Entire fleets of whaling ships sailed from New England ports, chasing whales across every ocean. The industry brought enormous profits and turned towns like New Bedford and Nantucket into bustling centers of global trade. And like all valuable commodities, whale oil was traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Investors speculated on prices, fortunes rose and fell, and the fate of a wild animal became deeply entangled with the fate of Wall Street. At its peak, a single large whale could be worth thousands of dollars. Killing one wasn't just a triumph of the hunt. It was like striking oil in Texas a century later. But whales were not an infinite resource, and the industry's success was also its downfall. The more whales the fleets caught, the harder it became to find the next one. Voyages stretched longer, costs went up, and yet demand for whale oil kept climbing as cities expanded and households demanded brighter nights. Then came a pivotal moment. In the early 1850s, whaling crews returned with fewer and fewer barrels of oil. Some ships came back nearly empty. The decline was visible in the markets. Whale oil prices spiked to record highs, creating a speculative frenzy. Traders in New York bid wildly, treating each new shipment of oil as if it were gold. But when a single dead whale failed to arrive in port, when one ship, expected to bring in a fortune, limped home with barely anything, the illusion shattered. It was as though the market suddenly realized what was happening. The whales were running out. The supply chain was breaking. For a brief and bizarre moment, the missing oil of a single whale caused panic on Wall Street. Prices tumbled. Investors lost faith in the industry that had seemed unstoppable. The crash of the whale oil market spread ripples far beyond New York, shaking New England whaling towns and leaving entire communities anxious about their future. A dead whale, or more accurately, the absence of one, had rattled the nation's financial heart. The story doesn't end in darkness, though. Around this time, a new invention appeared: kerosene, distilled from petroleum. Unlike whale oil, it didn't depend on hunters chasing elusive giants across the oceans. It was cheaper, easier to produce, and infinitely more scalable. By the late 1850s, kerosene lamps began replacing whale oil lamps across America. Within a generation, the once mighty whaling industry collapsed. Shipyards emptied, harbors fell silent, and the wealth of Nantucket and New Bedford faded into memory. Looking back, it seems surreal that the fortunes of Wall Street and the daily lives of millions once turned on the fate of whales swimming in distant oceans. Yet the whale oil crash is a reminder of how fragile human systems can be when they depend too heavily on a single resource. The world moved on to petroleum, then to electricity. But the lesson remains. Markets rise and fall on what nature provides, and nature does not always cooperate. So, yes, in the 1850s, the New York Stock Exchange trembled because of a dead whale, or, more precisely, because of the end of a way of life built on them. A single absence revealed a looming collapse, and in that moment, America glimpsed the limits of its own appetite. It's one of those funny history stories that feels too absurd to be true, but it was very real. A dead whale once shook Wall Street, and in its wake, a new energy era began. If you enjoyed this strange piece of history, give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more.